Greetings and salutations, all you beautiful individuals. It is another episode of Gauntlet. Garrett and Mark here with you, absolute beauties, for a little post-weekend Worlds debrief. And I guess we go right into just looking at what the draw is going forward, as we have a rare 2-day lull for games before we roll back into things. And I think people are primarily calling this a blessed draw. It's a banger of a draw. We didn't get T1 BLG, which would have been all-time, but we are guaranteeing that the West is best because we get the G2 versus FlyQuest head-to-head, which means we are guaranteed a Western team in quarterfinals.
I'm taking a 90% satisfaction rate with this draw for the next part of the World Championship. I think absolutely could have been one or two swapping places to make the matches just that extra level juicier, but still pretty good for us on that random draw. And yes, you are right to identify and highlight right away that there will be a Western team locking in one of these spots for the quarterfinals in the matchup between G2 and FlyQuest.
And of course, also going to be the first NA versus EU, which is always one of the most fun matchups at Worlds. And this is, it's not the last chance saloon. It's both these squads are going to have another opportunity, even if they lose. And FlyQuest obviously don't have wins against the LPL or the LCK, but have still looked good, beating on teams that they should beat. And obviously G2 riding very high and feeling good about them after their big win against BLG.
The question for me is this: if FlyQuest is prepared for the Anivia now, after seeing it busted out by G2 and specifically by one of the X Factor players that of course is going to be there in Caps in the mid lane for G2. I think this is one of those ones, Azale has even commented on it, saying that he thinks this is the only area that you can give an advantage to G2. I think that's maybe a little bit too much hopium on the side of FlyQuest in that regard, and not enough credit to what capabilities are there for G2. But still, that is one of those areas that you absolutely key in on and is highlighted right away, and especially after the previous G2 matchup and some of that flexibility, some of that champion identity picked by Caps in the mid lane.
I mean, these are the two Western teams that have shown over the last multiple years they're not afraid to pull out something a little bit crazy, incite some chaos, especially against some of the top teams from the LPL and LCK. So super excited for the pick band that we're going to get out of that side. And obviously didn't get that BLG T1 matchup as we alluded to. But we've got everyone's touching on this, the BLG and 100 Thieves. The RNG for this format is bigger than any Worlds format has ever been, and this is the easiest way to look at it because 100 Thieves have played BLG, had that head-to-head. Top eSports, Hanwha Life, T1. That's the top two seeds from the LPL, second seed from the LCK, and the defending world champions. BLG have played 100 Thieves, of course, had that head-to-head. Fnatic, the worst team at the tournament. G2, still a Western team, but good in their own right. And now VIVO Keedstar. That is an unbelievable schedule, and even more unbelievable is they're 1-2 with that schedule.
This is like those guys that are doing those, fitness dieting videos on YouTube where it's like, here's this, burger and fries, and this is the calories and everything it is. And then here's this bountiful harvest of snacks and organic fruits and everything else, and it's all this smorgasbord buffet that you could eat, and it equals out to the same calories. It equals out to the same amount of games. Yeah, very much the different calorie count that you're looking through in these individual ones when you're talking about the schedules for both of these. I don't know if it's simply just an unavoidable fact of having an event like this, because you can go back to when we were doing the previous format with the group of death type of draws that you would have that certainly could be looked at as unlucky, lucky, whatever, favored type of draw situation. And now in Swiss stage, because of the way it falls out and works out in this type of one, it seems every single year there's always somebody that ends up with one of these fortunate draws where it is these easier paths in order to secure one of these last spots in the quarterfinals. And there's always somebody that has the hardest road possible to secure themselves one of these spots in the quarterfinals. This year edition happens to be the BLG and 100 Thieves runs.
And again, if BLG had like already advanced through, you'd be like, wow, they got pretty lucky, but here they are. But they're struggling. They have some of the worst. They have the second lowest kills per game of the whole tournament. BLG, the team that's usually top 2 for kills internationally, not just within the LPL. They've got the lowest dragon percentage, but the more telling stat is they still have the second highest gold differential, which means the laning phase is going fine, even with some suspect jungle play. They still have that dominant lane, but it's this post 15 minutes that things fall apart for BLG, and that, more often than not, has just been random guys getting caught out for no reason.
It feels like they're a champagne bottle, right, that has the cork slowly edging out, and it looks like it's gonna pop on its own, and it's gonna have the celebration. It's gonna be a good time. And then is it going to be that the party ends before the cork pops on the champagne for BLG here? Seems to be the question right now. And it's made, again, even more of one of these stress points, seeing the strength of their schedule, knowing how they have struggled. And on that vice versa, looking at 100 Thieves, knowing the strength that the schedule that they've gone up against and how they're not completely getting dunked in the water. Sure, there's levels to that competitiveness that you can go through, but absolutely, I think the level that 100 Thieves have shown in against their competitive scale of the schedule so far, compared to what we have seen from BLG and their strength of schedule so far, are the polar opposites, and it is one of those crazy storms that you come into here at a World Championship and with the Swiss stage format.
It's unlikely either of these things happen, but I don't know what would end in a bigger riot. BLG, the top seed from the LPL, being eliminated by a Brazilian team, or an NA team eliminating the 2-time defending world champions of T1. There would be trucks and riots in either scenario.
I think it would be bigger than it is 100 Thieves taking down T1, except for the fact that T1 falls back on the previous world championships, and especially the recent world championships is a little bit of a softer landing in comparison to what it would be if BLG fails at this one, and especially a BLG that has already had some red X's, some failures on the international stage on their record in the Chinese
China.
Public eye. Again, in China, and especially after what we had seen throughout the summer split, and a BLG go, no, we are back. We are the BLG that can be the pride, the leaders of this region, only to stumble and faceplant again on the international stage would absolutely be one of the biggest stories to go through at this event.
One of the other spicy matchups we now got in this draw, and we'll do a full preview look ahead for all these matchups before they happen, but the top eSports GenG angle here. Obviously, GenG isn't one of the first teams through, but I think most people would still consider the top dogs of the tournament, especially fresh off of this weekend where we got installment 10 of T1 GenG. What a banger, just a single best of one. And they put up maybe the most dominant win that they've had against T1 all year long.
Holy moly. This one I'm kind of upset about. Of course, obviously being the T1 fan, upset in the first place about it. But secondly, I was all hyped. This was supposed to be the big matchup that I'd been waiting for in Swiss stage. Yeah, a couple of these other ones, like a shrimp cocktail, a Caesar salad, all the good stuff. Give me the steak and potatoes. Give me the real deal meal. I got the fast food value menu right. Get out of here, go eat and go home type of thing from GenG and T1. And especially, I think when you're talking about this one, you have to look at the matchup that it is, GenG and Top Esports, and realize, is this a 2-3 run for Top Esports here? This could be, again, as we're talking about unlucky draws and how things go, at the end of it all, Top Esports might be the ones to claim that they've got the raw end of the deal.
I mean, people were talking about this angle even when Top Esports was 2-0, this happening. But now you draw GenG, and then you see a potential BLG on the horizon. Even the loser of FlyQuest G2, if they draw TES at 2-2, you're calling that a win, right?
There's certainly real power that still remains at this event that is going to be there regardless of how things play out for these 2-2 squads looking to get their spot at the quarterfinals. there will be real deal people in that final matchup, really looking for that final chance opportunity to get into the quarterfinals. Are you going to be better than these guys? And especially these guys that are now having an opportunity like this, I think it's going to have to be one, either the miracle. It has to be that level up ultimate showing on the day against GenG where you're booking your ticket there, or it seriously is going to be a danger situation for a squad like Top Esports.
And I think what's so important at these events is, we do all this previewing, all the build up to this, the power level teams right coming into this event throughout the year. But it all sinks in and resets when Worlds actually kicks off, and then you have the momentum of the tournament itself. And starting 2-0 and then you fall to 2-2 versus maybe a squad climbing up from the brink of defeat. Momentum within the tournament and the power level you have in your most recent series. If Top Esports gets dumpstered by GenG and then a squad like, let's say FlyQuest loses to G2, but it's a close series that they know they could have won, they're going to have the confidence even matching up against somebody like TES.
I think it's, the buffet of this event, the big meat that's placed out there, the fat's already starting to get trimmed off. You've already had a couple of these teams eliminated, and you've already have the way it's set up, that it will be one of these ones where, again, whoever is last, whoever is left standing trying to get one of these last very tickets to the quarterfinals is going to be a real deal team. And they're going to be hungry as hell to lock in one of those spots. So absolutely, if you are a Top Esports, knowing that you are up against a Goliath in GenG, you still got to find a way to square up and get your best effort out there. Otherwise, it's not looking like an easy path by any means to get back into the quarterfinals.
The other banger 2-1 matchup, we're talking Han with CFO. These are two teams that at different times have both looked like they could be a top 4 team at this event.
Very much so looking forward to this one because, again, we've already seen this before. We've had this at First Stand, and we've seen CFO be incredibly close to a Hanwha Life. And I think for most people from there, you haven't necessarily seen an outrageous growth improvement from Hanwha Life. And you certainly have seen that growth and improvement from CFO since that First Stand event, and especially at this World Championship, showing them the caliber that they are at. Yes, still underdogs, still, the not the favorite ones, absolutely, when you're looking at a head-to-head of this scale. But one of these ones that I think can absolutely shake the tree of the World Championship if CFO is able to pull off the upset.
We're already here at the point where it's time to say farewell. We're putting out our 07s and saluting the first couple of squads that were eliminated over the weekend. And unfortunately, I think you're left this event saying, no question, hands down, the worst performing squad at the entire event is the 3rd seed from the LEC. That is Fnatic, and we didn't even have to wait 24 hours for coaches and players alike to start blaming and saying, wow, we were never on the same page. There's been miscommunications. We weren't locked in. And the fact that this happened so quickly after being eliminated, I'm like, well, you guys had no chance from the get-go if this was the behind the scenes going on.
We talked about it heading towards the World Championship, that there were going to be either two paths. Either one, we were going to see the iteration of Fnatic that was able to surprise and move on within the LEC, Grand Finals Championship weekend and get that upset against Carmine Corp. Or was it going to be the ones that faltered and didn't get anything going or started against a Movistar Koi? That was the one that we ended up getting on the international stage. Disappointments all across the board. I think certainly one of the ones where you were left at the end of it being pretty much your only chance was a miracle 1 in 1,000 type of play and, pull off a miracle type of run from Poby in the mid lane for this team. And if that's your only hope and long shot lottery win to try and get through this event, it's not going to ever work for you. So certainly one of these ones, and hearing everything in the background, you see it with G2 and all the success that they've had. They still have to try and iterate, try and improve and change over this roster to find success at that next level. We're not doing the same with Fnatic here. So I think absolutely it is more than time for a full reset for this team.
Yeah, especially, Oscarinen and Razork have been now the longest tenured core members that have been there through a lot of these struggles. Would be surprised if they're back. I'd be surprised if Poby's back, not for Fnatic, but if I'm Poby, you want to come back into this environment?
No, I've seen enough of this one, and I think this is certainly one that at the very least, I've seen enough from Poby that it dictates that this isn't the opportunity for you, that you should be looking for a better opportunity, one where you have more support around you, more resources, all sorts of things like that. Not with what has been this spaghetti mess of Fnatic.
And really, the thing with Fnatic, this core keeps sticking around because they keep going to Worlds. So it's really Carmine Corp you've got to blame for Fnatic's performance here.
That is the other side to look at it, and I'll bring it up to about a 45-55 level of validity type of one, because yes, that does factor into it, and certainly one of the areas that I am absolutely putting on the hot seat moving into next season, where I want to see that action, partly in because of wanting to see it for Carmine Corp, and partly because we need something fresh over here.
The other elimination match, a little bit more positive way to talk about it, because I think the boys from Brazil showed up, played really well on the day, even though they were definitely the underdogs coming in against PSG Talon. But Trimby and the boys showed up, deserved the series win. A little disappointing out of PSG, and a little bit of a sad, probable end to the era that is Maple, Karsa, Betty, guys who were kind of the OG Flash Wolves era, LMS, Taiwanese league scene. But really, it proves that the region is still in great hands and in a new era, because they're being the first eliminated, but you have squads like CFO and even Team Secret Wales, even though they're primarily Vietnamese, that you're going, this region is still better than the LTA and maybe even LEC.
Yeah, it does have a little bit of that positivity to it, yes, when you are looking at it from that angle. And I think at the end of the day, it still kind of validates what we knew heading towards this tournament. One, the LTA South, yes, absolutely did have their struggles, and it's been all sorts of places throughout the year and the way that the LTA scheduling had worked out. But still, to get a showing like this and to keep moving on here at the World Championship, absolutely, that is getting that thumbs up, and it is a good sign for them. And one of these ones where it is also the verification on PSG, as we had talked about heading towards this event, cannot underestimate type of situation with them, but still one of these teams where everything had to have been going right for them to show the level that they could with that lineup. And it's absolutely also, again, still one of those ones where you look at yourself, you look at the situation with Team Secret Wales, with CFO, and how far they are climbing and reaching, and you realize, yes, as Maple, as Betty, as Karsa, that the region is in very good hands moving forward.
And listen, for VIVO, you're now basically one series away from a title. They're not going to win Worlds, but if you beat BLG, it's essentially like winning Worlds for you, going down in history, legacy-wise. And listen, they are going to be the most massive of underdogs that you've ever seen. They have absolutely nothing to play for, and they're going to be fired up.
One of the most dangerous things that we always see at one of these events is someone playing with house money. When you got nothing to lose, when it is on the house, who cares? Whatever happens, we're going out with a bang type of situation. Yes, absolutely. Red circles on that BLG matchup for these boys. I hope that they can make some type of miraculous noise here and again etch their names into the history books, pulling off a complete upset like this.
And listen, there's so much pressure on BLG, not just to win the series. This is a team you're hoping wins the entire event, and in front of the hometown crowd, we know Chinese fans can be absolutely ruthless to their squads. You're going to be feeling the pressure even when you're missing a cannon minion in this game if you're on BLG.
The real key for me is, can you get to them early? Because if you can get to it early, absolutely, then the crowd becomes a factor. And it becomes that factor that is in your favor as the away, as the visiting squad to this Chinese library that will be there. Because I'm predicting it. I'm going with the Brazilian squad. They're going to make it quiet. They're going to have a fun time. I hope we see this upset.
Mark stepping into the profit role. I mean, there's angles I can absolutely be making a case for VIVO. This is still, we said BLG's playing at 30% against 100 Thieves. I mean, maybe they're at 40 now, but it's not like they flipped the switch and look like absolute demons lately.
I gotta be honest, I'm always there at World's time, beating and being stupid for the LTA,
That's how you
for
win
the
pick'ems,
LCS.
you know?
I don't care what we're calling the region. I'll always be here for it. And I'm bringing CB LOL LTA South along for the ride, and we're jumping in here.
They heard the news of CBLOL coming back, and that's like a tick going off that they're activated for the upset against a big squad. Wanted to touch on some of the broken picks we've seen so far. Obviously, everyone's talking about Sion. He's 10-2, but now we're moving along from best of one. So you're going to stop seeing these champions picked every game, obviously, because they can't. But also Xin Zhao sitting there with a 10-2 record overall so far as well.
Yeah, that's certainly been one of those ones, and especially that Xin Zhao Oriana combination is one of those ones that I would be looking at. It seems that, yes, we've clued in on the, things like Camille being the delivery for it, Jarvan being the delivery for it, Galio compositions with Camille. We've got all that under the basics. We've got even throw in a little sprinkling of Nocturne and Oriana combination. People seem to be sleeping on the Xin Zhao Oriana combination and how that lulls teams in to that trap where you are all grouped together. You all are trying to jump on that Xin Zhao type of situation. And here we go. Boom. Hit you with the shockwave. Deal massive damage to lots of you guys. I think that's absolutely one of those picks you're looking at. And you're right with the Sion certainly being that option, mainly being because of best of ones and where we are with that right now, and expecting that to change as we move more so deeper into having Fearless affect this. And that's absolutely going to be something I want to touch on and talk about after the event, because yes, having Fearless only really factor in at this point of it is certainly not necessarily the effect that I want to see Fearless have on the World Championship.
Yeah, it feels like now fully into the best of threes, it's kind of going to change into a whole new meta when you do have to go a little bit deeper into that pocket beyond the Scions and the Poppies. And I'm sure we'll see some spicier stuff pop up as these best of threes go full throttle. But that is it today for League Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you. Absolutely stunning individuals. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll catch you on that flippity flip.